Okay, so for day 2 of quick reviews here, we're going to factor difference of two squares and the GCF. So the difference of two squares, we'll start with that. Okay, um, so definition, just so you guys can remember it in case you don't. But for the difference of two squares, they normally give you a problem that looks like this: a squared minus b squared. Okay, notice that is a difference of two things that are being squared. That's why they call it the difference of two squares. The name is pretty obvious as to why they call it that. Now, what you're supposed to do, and not that you have to do it, but I highly recommend it, is that I would tell you to rewrite it like this. Like, figure out what number squared, okay, minus what number squared would create your a squared minus b squared. Once you know those numbers inside the parentheses, all you have to do is write out a little pattern: a minus b, a plus b. Okay, but you got to figure out those numbers inside of the parentheses. Okay, what number squared gives you a squared? What number squared gives you b squared? It could also be a letter, but we're looking for that type of stuff. Okay, so we're gonna do 3 examples. I'll do 2 of them from your homework, one that's not on your homework. Okay, and then we'll move on to the GCF portion. So here we go. So example number 1. Um, they're just going to have you basically factor this. So we're going to factor, and we'll do part A. V squared minus 9. Okay, so this is considered an easier one, okay, because it doesn't have a lot of stuff going on. So your main question you're going to be asking yourself is, how can I write v squared as something squared and 9 as something squared? Okay, so v squared as something squared and 9 as something squared. So what squared is v squared? That's just v, right? And what squared is 9? 3. So all you have to do now is just write v minus 3, v plus 3, and you're done. And like I said, unfortunately, this was the type of question that a lot of people were missing on the test. Like some of those, like 40% of the questions that people were getting wrong were things like this. And I'm like, why are they missing that? It's an easy question, but then you start thinking, well, maybe they just didn't remember the process, right? Because you guys have to have that process down. So this is one of those, like I said, that's considered to be kind of on the easier side, okay? And then another one might look something like this: 16n squared minus 9. Okay, so notice it is something squared minus, well, 9, but 9 can be something squared as well, right? It's 2 terms being subtracted. So what I want to do is see if I can actually write it as 2 things that are squared, right? So it looks weird there. I'll probably erase that left side here. But what squared is going to give me a 16n squared? So let's start with the number. So what squared gives me 16?
4.
4, right? And then what letter squared gives me n squared? That's just an n, right? And then what squared gives me 9? 3. So then my answer is just 4n minus 3 and 4n plus 3. And that's it. Okay? So that's all you need to do these types of problems. Okay? Now, every once in a while you get some weird looking one. So I'll get to doing one of those. But before I do that, do you guys have any questions on A or B? Again, this is just difference of two squares, okay? How we work a difference of two squares. So, let me think here. 8x squared minus, I'm trying to think of a number here, 18. So 8x squared minus 18. So this is going to transition us into our next topic. But right now, if I say, okay, here's a difference of two terms, maybe it's a difference of two squares. So let me write it as something squared minus something squared. Will that work? Like, what squared is 18? Nothing, right? Nothing squared gives me 8, right? Well, I guess the square root of 8 gives you 8, but we're not doing that. But no like integer is going to give me an 8 when I square it, right? 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. It doesn't give me 8. So if you see this and you try it and it doesn't work, one of the things you should ask yourself before you do anything else is, do they have anything in common, right? So 8x squared minus 18, is there a number that they have in common? A 2. Is that the biggest number? Because 4 divides 8, but it doesn't divide 18, right? 8 divides 8, but it doesn't divide 18. So 2 seems to be like the best option, right? So I'm going to take out a 2 first, okay? And I'm going to use a bracket here just to kind of isolate it a little bit better. If I take a 2 out from 8x squared minus 18, I end up with 4x squared minus 9. Okay? So now the question is, this piece right here, can I rewrite that little piece as a difference of two squares? Oh yeah, I could, right? Because this is, let me write it out this way. So what squared is 4x squared? That'd be 2x. And what squared is 9? We found out earlier was 3, right? So this becomes 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3. But don't forget to drop the number that you took out, right? So this 2 is going to have to go down. So we're going to have that 2 right here. All right? So I don't think, looking at your homework, well, actually there's 5 problems where you don't have to take out a GCF, but one of them for difference of two squares is going to require you to take it out. Okay? So there's only one like that, and I didn't do the one on your homework. I didn't want to do that one because then that means I did it for you, right? But there's 6 total questions. I've done 2. This third one is not on your homework. Part C is not part of your homework. But it's going to be very similar to one from your homework.
Sorry.
Okay? No problem. So, any questions on A, B, and C so far? So this is difference of two squares, okay? Anytime you see a binomial, that means two terms being subtracted, ask yourself, is it a difference of two squares? Check. Because if it is, then they factor really easily. If not, usually it's going to be a GCF problem, a greatest common factor. So that's our next thing that we're going to discuss, and then I'm done. So the greatest common factor, okay, or GCF. I guess the main idea here, if I may, is just highlight this right here for me, okay? Sometimes people get confused with the word greatest. What you're looking for is common factors, right? It's always best to get the biggest number. That's why they call it the greatest, okay? But if you get a number that's smaller, it's okay. It just means you might have to do more work, okay? So I always tell you, try to find the biggest number, right? So maybe we can rename it the biggest common factor, right? But greatest common factor meaning maybe these terms have something in common, okay? So we're just looking for things that they have in common. So let me write down example 2 here. We're going to factor. And you guys have 6 of these type of questions, so we'll do 3 of them here. So here's the first one. So we'll try this one here. 16 plus 8k plus 48k squared. Okay, some people like to rewrite this, and I'm okay if you want to put the k squared in the front. That's completely up to you. But we're just going to take out a common factor. So think of the numbers 16, 8, and 48. What number divides 16, 8, and 48? 8, all right, so let me take out an 8. And do they all have a letter in common? No, the 16 doesn't even have a letter. So 16 divided by 8 is 2. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so this is just k. And 48 divided by 8, that's 6. And there you go. All right, so there's your common factor being taken out, okay, the 8. So that's all you have to do. Sometimes they'll ask you, like, well, should I continue and see if I can factor that out even further? In this homework assignment, they're not expecting you to. They just want you to take out what they have in common. That's it. So they don't want you to go further, okay? But if you want to try to do this using an X method, you can, but it's not required, all right? So that's what makes the homework a little bit easier to do. Let me give you another one like this. Another homework problem. But as you can see, these are not supposed to be difficult. You're just trying to find something that they have in common. I think that's right. Yeah, 10b squared plus 16b to the fourth. So we're just trying to find something that they have in common, right? So if you look at all terms, do they have a number that they can all be divided by? What is it? 2. All right. And what about a letter? B. How many b's do they have in common? 1. Just 1, right? Because it's b to the first, b to the second, b to the fourth. They at least have 1 in common. So once I do that, then I'm going to divide, right? Because remember, whatever you factor out, you're dividing. So you start off with your 2b in the very beginning. 2b divided by 2b, right? I'm dividing these. 2b divided by 2b, that's 1. All right. 10 divided by 2 is 5. B squared divided by b is b to the first, right? If you have 2 b's, you take away 1, you have 1 left. And then plus 16 divided by 2 is 8. And b to the fourth divided by b is b to the what? 3, right? The third. So there you go. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. So there's your answer for this one. I forgot to do that to the other one. Let me do that really quick. So I'll do one more. Like I said, these are all from your homework, so we're not really wasting time. This is time you'd be using up anyway. So here we go. Let me see what the hardest one looks like. It might be this one. So 27 n to the fourth plus 6 n cubed and minus 24 n squared. So that might be like the hardest looking one on your homework. So what number divides all like 27, 6, and 24? 3, right? Not 6. 6 divides 24, but not 27. If it was a 28, yes. No, actually, no. What am I saying? 28 would not be divided by 6. There were 24s, yes, but 27 doesn't go. But 3 divides all 3 numbers. So I'm going to take a 3 out. So I'm taking the 3 out. And then letters, how many n's do I take out? 2, right? Every one of them has at least 2 n's, right? One of them has 4, one of them has 3, but the other one has 2. So they all have at least 2 n's. So 27 divided by 3, that's 9. N to the fourth divided by n squared. Remember, you just subtract the power. So 4 minus 2, that's a 2. Plus 6 divided by 3 is 2. N to the third divided by n squared, you just subtract the power. So 3 minus 2 is 1. So n to the first. And then minus 24 divided by 3, that's 8. And n squared divided by n squared, that's 2 minus 2, that's a 0. N to the 0 is a 1, okay? I'm just going to put right here, n to the 0 equals 1. Anything to the 0 power equals to 1. So here you go. And this one's done. All right? So this is what you guys have for your homework.